What happens when artificial intelligence tries to write like your favorite fantasy author? You've probably heard endless debates about AI replacing writers, but no one seems to be showing exactly what AI can and can't do with creative writing. As someone who spent over 20 years crafting fantasy worlds, studying the techniques of successful authors, I've decided to start a series of experiments to discover the truth about AI's capabilities in this area. Whether you love or fear AI's growing influence, one thing for me is certain: we cannot judge something that we don't even understand. So in this first episode, I'll show you some of Brandon Sanderson's distinctive writing elements and compare how AI handles similar challenges. This experiment isn't about whether AI can write a good story. That's too subjective. Instead, it's to find out how AI handles concrete writing challenges that successful authors have already mastered. For the experiment, I'll be using Claude 3.5 Sonnet New, one of the most advanced language models available right now. Throughout each test, I'll share every prompt I use so you can see exactly how I'm instructing the AI. And let's start right away with perhaps Sanderson's most distinctive strength, his approach to magic systems. A Sanderson magic system feels more like discovering a new science than learning spells. There's a specific pattern to how he builds these systems. Take Mistborn's Elemency, a magic system where certain people can swallow and burn different metals to gain specific powers. Steel pushes on nearby metal sources, iron pulls on them, tin enhances your senses, and so on. The powers also have clear limitations. You need the right metals, you can run out of resources, and burning metals drains your energy. These aren't just arbitrary rules. They create natural story tensions and force creative problem solving. But the real genius shows in how Elemency shapes the entire world. The rarity of different metals creates social hierarchies. The need for metal reserves influences economics and warfare. Even architecture changes. Buildings in Mistborn need metal-free wooden walkways to prevent Elementers from using them as anchor points. So for our first test, I wanted to see if AI can create a magic system with this level of integration. Here's the prompt I used. Create a magic system following Brandon Sanderson's principles. The system should be based on a clear, scientific-feeling mechanism, have well-defined rules and limitations, create interesting combat and problem-solving possibilities, naturally integrate with and reshape society, feel unique rather than derivative. Provide a summary of all the key aspects of the magic system. Focus on the details needed to present the magic system to potential readers to find out if the system itself sparks their curiosity. Present it in a way that can be read out loud to readers as is, like a pitch. You might notice that my prompts are quite detailed and specific. This isn't accidental. I found that AI tends to produce better results when given clear constraints and goals. Here's what it shared as response. The resonance system. Imagine a world where every molecule has its own unique frequency, a natural vibration that exists just beyond human perception. Those born with the gift of resonance can attune their consciousness to these frequencies, creating harmonic patterns that manipulate matter at its most fundamental level. Resonators, as these practitioners are called, must first learn to detect the distinct frequencies of different materials through a meditative practice known as listening. Once attuned to a substance frequency, they can amplify or dampen these vibrations through focused concentration, allowing them to affect the material's physical properties, strengthening metals, making stone more malleable, or even temporarily altering the state of matter itself. The catch? Every use of resonance creates discordant frequencies, chaotic vibrations that build up in the resonator's body. Push too far, and these discordances can cause devastating physical harm, from muscle spasms to organ failure. Skilled resonators must carefully manage their harmonic balance, often using tuning forks or crystal arrays to safely disperse excess energy. This discovery revolutionized society. Architecture evolved around acoustic chambers that amplify resonators' abilities. New medical treatments emerged using precise calibrated frequencies to heal tissue damage. Military forces developed sound-based weapons and defenses. Even music itself gained new significance, with composers creating pieces that help resonators achieve specific effects. But perhaps most intriguingly, researchers have begun detecting strange frequency patterns in ancient ruins. patterns that don't match any known material. Some theorize these are evidence of a lost civilization that understood resonance at a far deeper level than modern practitioners. What secrets might they have uncovered about the true nature of matter and energy? And what happens when those secrets begin to resurface? Looking at this response, there are some impressive elements, but also clear limitations. The pseudoscientific foundation in molecular vibrations creates a system that feels grounded in real principles, similar to Sanderson's approach. The limitations are cleverly built into the mechanism itself. Using the power creates harmful discordance. This creates natural tension and resource management, which are classic Sanderson elements. The AI also shows good instincts by building in hooks for larger mysteries with those strange frequencies in ancient ruins. However, some explanations feel a bit too direct, such as the discovery revolutionized society. The system also lacks some of the deeper interconnections we see in Sanderson's works. While it mentions effects on architecture and medicine, it doesn't fully explore how these elements might interact with each other. How does the risk of discordance affect medical training? How do acoustic chambers in buildings impact city planning and social structures? These are the kinds of layered implications Sanderson excels at developing. Now, I know from testing that you can refine a lot of the output AI gives you, allowing you to achieve results that get better with your own input and follow-up prompts. But this here already shows us that using AI requires more than just a simple single-line request. That's why for our next test, I wanted to see if we could push the system further and explore its problem-solving capabilities. One thing that makes Sanderson's systems great is how they enable creative problem solving. I wanted to see if AI could think through these implications and use this prompt. Using the magic system you created, show me a creative way practitioners might solve each of the following two problems. Crossing a deep chasm when conventional bridges are impossible? Secretly communicating over long distances. Present just the solution, no additional commentary. Here's what the AI came up with for the first problem. The standing wave bridge. To cross the Void Gorge, Master Resonator Lin discovered she could create a stable crossing by establishing a standing wave pattern in the air itself. By finding the exact resonant frequency of the local atmosphere and generating two opposing wave patterns, she created bands of highly compressed air dense enough to walk on. The bridge appeared as shimmering bands of distorted light, like heat waves rising from summer rods, but could support the weight of an entire caravan. The technique required intense concentration, but far less raw power than trying to manipulate solid matter across such distances. And here's what the AI came up with for the second problem. The Stone Whispers network. The Resonator Underground developed a covert communication system by exploiting the fact that certain types of granite maintain their resonant patterns for hours after stimulation. The agents learned to write messages into common decorative stones using specific frequency patterns which other resonators could read later by listening to the lingering vibrations. The messages naturally faded over time, leaving no evidence. The network spread across continents through ordinary stone garden ornaments and building materials hiding in plain sight. Now what's impressive here is how the AI follows the internal logic of its own system to find creative solutions. The standing wave bridge builds on established principles of wave mechanisms and air compression. The stone communication network cleverly uses the established fact that materials can hold frequencies over time. These solutions feel like something you might find in a Sanderson novel, because they extend the magic system's rules in logic but unexpected ways. They're not just using brute force, they are finding clever adaptations of the basic principles. Such results do highlight that the creative output of AI models can be improved by digging deeper via follow-up prompts. But a world isn't just its magic system. Sanderson has another trademark, the way he gradually reveals his worlds. In The Way of Kings, for example, it takes several chapters before we learn that this world's grass retreats into the ground when approached. We learn about it through Shallon's casual observation while walking. It feels organic, yet it tells us so much. This isn't Earth. This is a world where plants have evolved defensive mechanisms. Even something as simple as people using spherical glass beads as currency becomes fascinating when you realize they are actually gemstones that store magical stormlight. Each reveal adds another piece to a larger puzzle. So let's see if AI can handle this kind of layered world building. I gave it the following challenge. Create a brief scene, not more than a page, that reveals a unique aspect of a fantasy world following Sanderson's principles. The reveal should happen naturally through character interaction. It should hint at larger implications about how the world works. The detail revealed should affect multiple aspects of society. The scene shouldn't feel like an exposition dump. Additional requirements: the revealed element should be truly unique, not a standard fantasy trope, show both immediate practical effects and broader societal implications, include subtle hints and how this element affects other aspects of life, leave some mystery for later revelation. And here's what the AI came up with based on this prompt. Pela counted her steps carefully as she approached the memory merchant's stall. 3 more, then pivot right, just as she'd practiced. The scent of burning sugar filled the air. Ah, perfect timing. The merchant's voice carried over the marketplace bustle. Your deceased aunt's wedding memories are almost fully crystallized. Pela's hands trembled as she placed 3 copper rings on the counter. Will they stay fresh longer this time? The merchant lifted a delicate violet crystal to the sunlight. Inside, whispers of color swirled like morning mist. I've been experimenting with a new preservation technique. Added a pinch of children's first love essence. Makes the memories more stable, less likely to fade to gray. A town guard passed by, and both Pela and the merchant fell silent. Trading in memories from the dead was technically legal, but only because the council hadn't figured out how to regulate it yet. Everyone knew the wealthy were hoarding generations of ancestral memories, building entire libraries of crystallite experiences. How long? Pela asked when the guard was out of earshot. 2 weeks, maybe 3 before the callers start to dull. But here's the trick. The merchant glanced around conspiratorially. Store it with fresh flowers. Something about the life force helps maintain the vibrancy. The temple gardeners have been my best customers lately, though they'd never admit it. Pela cradled the crystal in her palm. For a few precious weeks, she would be able to step into her aunt's joy, feel the warmth of a family celebration she'd been too young to attend. These borrowed memories were the closest thing to time travel they had. One more thing, the merchant added as Pela turned to leave. I'd avoid the South Market for a while. Some rookie tried crystallizing memories from the recent plague victims. Nasty business. Everyone who touched those crystals started showing symptoms. Memory crystals don't just carry the good parts, you know? Now this scene succeeds in several aspects, but also reveals common AI writing pitfalls. The core concept, crystallized memories, is introduced naturally through marketplace interaction. The immediate practical elements like preservation techniques and pricing feel authentic to a market transaction as well. However, the AI occasionally slips into explicit exposition, particularly when explaining the political situation. Lines like trading in memories from the dead was technically legal, but only because the council hadn't figured out how to regulate it yet, feel more like author notes than natural narrative. A more skillful approach might have revealed those details through character reactions or specific incidents. It's not that show don't tell is the ultimate rule for every situation, but here I'd say it certainly would apply. In terms of world-building implications, these do ripple outward naturally, though some connections feel underdeveloped. The mention of children's first love essence cleverly hints at other forms of emotional magic, but the class commentary about wealthy people hoarding memories comes across as heavy-handed rather than organic in my opinion. Now if you found anything useful in the video so far, please consider giving it a like to help me grow the channel. Thank you. Moving on, let's look at something more technical. Sanderson's action scenes sometimes read like choreographed dances, where magic, environment, and character decisions interweave perfectly. Take the first major fight in Mistborn for example, where Kelsier demonstrates elemancy to Win. He's not just showing off powers, he's teaching both Vin and the reader. Or look at the climactic battle in Words of Radiance, where Kaladin and Seth duel in a high storm. They are fighting while flying through a magical hurricane, using their powers to navigate intense winds and lightning. The environment isn't just a backdrop here, it's an active participant in the action scene. 3 things make these scenes special from my point of view. First, we have multiple layers of action. Characters aren't just fighting, they are pursuing objectives. Then there's creative power use, abilities combined in unexpected ways. And finally, there's environmental integration. Surroundings matter and change the dynamics. Let's see if AI can create something similar. And for that, I gave it the following prompt. Using the magic system you created earlier, write an action scene that demonstrates Sanderson's style complexity. This scene should include at least 2 practitioners using their powers creatively, environmental elements that affect the action, Characters pursuing multiple objectives beyond just winning, clear stakes and consequences, strategic thinking and resource management, smooth choreography that's easy to follow. Make the scene feel dynamic while keeping the action clear and logical. Show characters making strategic decisions based on their resources and circumstances. Limit the length of the scene to 1 page. And here's what the AI produced for this. The Chamber of Echoes. Maya pressed her palm against the marble column, feeling its frequency pulse through her bones. Above, the dome chamber's crystal-studded ceiling caught the morning light, scattering rainbow refractions across the floor. Somewhere in this ceremonial hall, hidden among the forest of columns, Kel was hunting her, and the ancestral tuning fork was still sitting in its central pedestal unclaimed. A discordant tremor shot through her left arm, aftermath from her earlier defensive resonance. She needed at least 10 minutes to safely disperse that chaotic energy. Kel probably knew that. A faint hum from 3 columns away made her freeze. The marble's natural frequency was shifting, becoming harder, more brittle. Kel was setting a trap, making the stone ready to shatter, but he'd given away his position. Maya took a slow breath and reached out to the air itself. A risky move with her discordance levels already high, but she couldn't let him reach the fork first. She found the atmosphere's resonance and began damping it in a sphere around her, creating a bubble of near silence that would muddle any frequencies Kel tried to detect. His attack came instantly, the marble column beside her exploding into lethal shards, but in a bubble of dampened air, the fragments moved as if through honey. She slipped past them, already reaching for the next column's frequency. As she rolled behind it, she sent a pulse through the stone that matched its resonant pattern perfectly. The amplified vibration shot upward like a wave. Above, the crystal-studded ceiling sang in response. Kel must have realized her plan. "Wait!" she heard him shout. "The whole chamber could!" Maya modulated her frequency slightly. 100 crystals crashed down where she'd last heard his voice. Not to kill, she needed him alive to verify a claim to the fork. But if she could overwhelm him with enough discordance. A sharp glance glanced through her arm. She pushed too far, too fast. Through blurred vision, she saw Kel emerge from behind a distant column. He was limping, like battling his own discordance. Their eyes met across the chamber. The fork stood between them, humming softly, with frequencies older than history itself. They both knew, in their current states, reaching for that much power would be lethal. But Maya saw in Kel's eyes the same calculation running through her own mind. Sometimes the question wasn't whether to cross a line, but who would cross it first. She pushed away from the column and began running. The Chamber of Echoes scene demonstrates both the strength and limitations of AI-generated action. On the positive side, the scene maintains clear choreography and effectively integrates the magic system with environmental elements. The building tension through escalating discordance creates natural stakes and limitations. However, the scene sometimes prioritizes technical clarity over emotional impact. While we understand the tactical situation perfectly, we get little sense of the characters' personalities or deeper motivations beyond the immediate conflict. Sanderson's action scenes often reveal character through combat choices and advance multiple plot threads simultaneously. The environment, while well used technically here, feels somewhat generic as well. A more developed scene might have given the ceremonial hall more unique characteristics that could have been creatively employed in the fight. The ancestral turning fork does create intrigue, but its significance remains rather vague compared to how Sanderson typically layers meaning into important artifacts. To be fair though, when thinking about Sanderson's novels, we have entire stories that influence our understanding of certain elements. When it comes to the output of the AI here, we're asking for such specifics in isolation. From experience, I can say that the depth and quality of AI output can improve significantly when sharing the issues one finds and asking it to fix them accordingly. Now, taking a step back, overall throughout this experiment, we've seen AI demonstrate both impressive capabilities and clear limitations in creative writing from my point of view. AI's strengths lie primarily in systematic thinking and pattern recognition. It can create logical magic systems with consistent rules and limitations. It handles technical choreography well and can maintain clear cause and effect relationships. When given specific parameters, it can generate creative solutions that follow established rules. And from prior experiments based on my own writing, I also know that AI can mimic a particular writing style decently enough to present a quality that I would qualify as a good first draft. However, as far as I've seen, AI does still also show consistent limitations with deeper integration and emotional resonance. it tends to front-load information rather than revealing it naturally over time. While it can create individual clever elements, it struggles to weave them into a fully realized world with the kind of deep interconnections that make Sanderson's worlds feel alive. The more detailed things get, the more often it starts to produce subpar quality. Basically, it can create the pieces of a good story, but struggles to make them dance together seamlessly. Having said that, looking forward, I do believe that AI will become an increasingly useful tool for writers who are open to embrace it. Rather than replacing creative writing, AI could serve as a brainstorming partner, a tool for testing different narrative approaches, or a way to combat writer's block and get a rough early draft to the page that fits the style and story so far. No matter what though, I still believe that human interaction and guidance is needed to produce anything worthwhile. There might come a time where AI can freely produce high quality novels on its own, but that time certainly hasn't come yet. Which means improving your own writing is still the way to go. So watch this video here next, where I share insights from 25 years of fantasy writing so you can learn from my experiences and avoid my mistakes.